All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 11 of the Rankin Technical College online AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies class for the fall 2023 semester. All right, let's just talk about a few things here. First of all, there will not be a set day of the week on which we have tests. I got emails from a couple people saying, geez, I didn't know there was a test yesterday. Tests are on Thursdays. We've only had one test before this, and yes, it was on a Thursday. All right. But no, there was a test yesterday. All right. What I've always tried to do is send you an email on that day letting you know what we're doing. And then after we go over lectures or whatever, you get another email in the afternoon, which tells you what we did and what we're planning on doing the next day. Now, as of right now, and I don't want to go into numbers and I'm not trying to embarrass anyone, but several people in this class are currently failing. And I believe most of the reason that most people are failing is they haven't done the work. So what I've decided to do, as it says right in the middle of this email that you see on your screen, is today and tomorrow will both be lab for the entire period. Now, I am going to get a hold of May. She is the person who has volunteered to set up a Discord server on which you could have a study group. All right. And I will go in and see if it's at all possible for her to start something up as soon as possible for you guys to go in and get together, all right, online. But what I've done is, you will have lab today, you will have lab tomorrow, all right, by the end of the day tomorrow. So by midnight tomorrow, September 13th, all right, I expect all work to be in for chapters 1 through 7. Now, again, I'm going to be done here in 10 or 15 minutes. So you're going to have 3.5 hours today, and you're going to have roughly 4 hours tomorrow. So between those, you'll have around 7.5 hours. All right. I will be here for questions, but please try things. Sometimes people are just sending me emails saying, I don't even know where to start. Well, I'll tell you where you can start. All right. For the shape ups that we're doing, all right, go and take a look at what we're doing for the Halloween Superstore. Take a look at those. All right. Make sure at a minimum you're getting the written test done. And I try to give you a pre-test before you take your tests, right? And I'm going to continue to try to do that. And don't just sit there and watch me do the lecture where I go over the pre-test. Try doing the pre-test yourselves. Now, for those people who say to me, yeah, I mean, I'd like to do all that, but I don't have the time. I don't know what to tell you about that. I really and truly don't. I'm not yelling. I'm not mad. I'm not anything. I'm just being honest with you. I have gone in and I've talked with our admissions counselor, Patrick Glenn, and he has met with some of you personally, or some of you on the phone or via email. And he always tells people, the people who do the best typically are the ones who watch all of the videos, be they live or on tape. For someone to think that they can get through this course without having any problems and just reading the book, I don't know. Some people may be able to do that. But the reason that I'm going over these lectures is because, I meant to supplement what's in the book. I cannot go over every page and spend a day on every page. That wouldn't make any sense. All right. So again, all written tests, all labs, and all homework. All right. Due tomorrow by midnight. All right. And I get timestamps when you put stuff out there on GitHub. Now, some of you are still having problems with GitHub. And I think I told you this. All right. But I sent you an email on it. But again, if you do go out to youtube.com, and again, if you come in and you make a check or you put in me, so Jeff Scott, Rankin Technical College, One of the things you're going to see in there, and it's one of the last ones, get in GitHub one more time. I did a 40-minute thing where I tried to really slow it down and go through everything that you have to do in there. I don't know how to make it any plainer. I don't. And again, that's not meant to insult anyone. Sometimes people just, I'm one of those people. I typically learn things well, but you've got to beat it into my head before I first understand it. All right. And I realize everybody's different. But I've shown you again and again, if you're still having problems, I've mentioned this to you before, that if you go out to get SCM, I think it was, .com, not the downloads, but if you just go out there, there is that book that's out there on how to use Git. Now, you don't have to, I wouldn't go over any more. I mean, I would just do the getting started if you have to, and the basics. I don't think you need branching. We don't use that in here. We don't use GitLab in here or distributed Git, etc. We don't do any of this stuff. All right. But it may be worth your time to at least look at the first couple chapters in here. All right. I've also gone out and I've mentioned that if you don't like the way that I'm presenting things, oops, sorry, that you can go out, you can search for Cold Steel's Git. And again, he's got Git in 15 minutes. He's got GitHub in 20 minutes. If you're still having problems, you can always go out to github.com. And I'm sorry, where is it? I don't want github.com. I don't want github.com. All right. And if you go out there, I don't remember which one it is, but there is a thing out there. Let's see. There's a GitHub blog. And there's a few other things that are out here for GitHub as well. Here's some more things on YouTube. All right. And I've tried to work with some of you individually. One of the things that I recommended to you was that you go out and you make yourself 4 different folders. One to hold your hands-on tests, one to hold your written tests, one to hold your labs, and one to hold your homeworks for people who have asked. So let's pretend for a minute that, okay, this is, where is it? This is hot number 2. So let's pretend in here that I already have a thing called Jeff Scott Hots right there. All right. And I'm just going to drag this thing in there. And let's just, again, we're just pretending for a moment here that I also have a thing in here that was called hot-1. All right. If I had hot-1 in there and I went in and went through all the steps, in other words, if I went in here and did a git, if I did a git bash here, all right, and I came in and I said git init, again, that's going to put the git folder in there. And then I said git add dot, that's going to add everything to the staging area. Then if I say git commit -m hot tests or something, it doesn't matter what, and I put that in there, that's now got everything ready to be sent. All right. Then I have to go over, and this thing is called Jeff Scott Hots. All right. So then I'd have to go into GitHub and I'd have to make sure that I create a new repository that would be called Jeff Scott Hots, like that. Now it says it already exists. You see that. All right. So let me just put another one out there just so we can go through the whole process. So rather than doing this, I'm going to come in here and do this. I'm going to rename the folder to Jeff Scott Hots 2. All right, so there it is. Jeff Scott Hots 2. Well, it says I can't do it because Git is open. So let me try it again. All right, so it's now Jeff Scott Hots 2. All right, so then I would have to come in and I would have to go into GitHub again. So open up my Jeff Scott Hots 2 folder, right mouse click, do a git bash here. And then I'd have to say, come into GitHub and create that repository, Jeff Scott Hots 2. It's available. Yours should be private. In fact, I'll make mine private. All right. And then click create repository. Then you need to go in and grab this line right here, this remote add, copy it to the clipboard, and put it into GitHub. Then the only thing left to do is to come in and say git push -u origin. Some of you will be main, and some of us it'll be master. It doesn't matter. Try doing it with main, and if it works, great. And then after you do that, all right, after you do that, then everything that is in that repository gets pushed to GitHub. So let's say you did all that. Now it's a week from now, and now we have hot 3. So again, we're pretending here we just created a hot 3. All right. No, there's nothing in there, so I'm not going to go through the process again. But if you go back in like we just did, so if we go back in there and you again come through here and you do a git add dot and hit enter and a git commit -m, I could put hot test 3 in there and hit enter, and you shouldn't have to do again, but your git push -u origin master or main and hit enter. That updates the repository and it just writes out the changes to it. So it's all the stuff that you did not have in there previously. All right. You can remove things from a repository. I just recommend leaving it there, even if it's more garbage, because it's real easy. You're working with a piece of external software, so it's real easy to screw it up. All right. Okay. So again, going back to this, as it says, today and tomorrow will both be lab days. All chapters 1 through 7 written tests, labs, and homework will be due by midnight tomorrow. If it is midnight tomorrow, and if there are any of you in here that have turned in nothing thus far, all right, I've gone in and did attendance for last week. But if there's nothing in there, I'm going to go back and change your attendance to absent because you haven't turned anything in. Now, some of you have come back to me and said, hey, you're doing this differently than the online gen ed classes. Maybe. This is not an online gen ed class. I have nothing to do with the general education program at Rankin Technical College. If you have questions on that, I would say start with your teacher. All right. Now, in addition, because I probably haven't mentioned this to you before, so I'm going to do it right now, that we do have a woman who works at Rankin. Let's see, I got to get her name for you. Her name is Emily Malaby, I believe you pronounce it. All right. And who cares? I mean, what about it? Okay. She is a student success counselor. I will send that out to everybody today. If you're having problems with things, she is a person that you can talk to. All right. Some of you have asked, again, I have already tried to talk to Evan about getting a tutor. All right. And I will bring it up. I'm supposed to meet with him for a few minutes this morning. I'm going to say, hey, do you have anyone who's interested in tutoring for the AWD1000 online class? If I find out there is someone, I'll post that person's name out there. All right. All right. So I'm going to leave that up there so I don't forget about it. So as it says in the please remember, so this is repeated, but I want you to see this. All work, not hands-on tests, but all written tests, all labs, and all homework. So that's the written test, and that's the shape up exercises, and that's the Halloween exercises. They're all due tomorrow by midnight, with no exceptions. What that means is this is not a threat. I'm just telling you this. But what that means is if it's, if I go in tomorrow morning and I go into grade, or not, sorry, Thursday morning, if I go into grade this and you have nothing there, zeros go in the book. That's just the way that it is. We're in week 3 right now, and half of that work was due in week 1. All right. Secondly, as it says, last Thursday or 2 Thursdays ago, I guess, we did hot number 1. All right. Some of you still haven't turned that in. I will accept your, and that should say hot number 1 there, misprint on my part. I will accept your hot number 1 through Sunday, but you're going to get a late penalty. That's not fair to the people who did it and turned it in on the day it was due. All right. And your hot number 2 was due yesterday. Again, I'll accept that through Sunday. But again, you will incur a late penalty. All right. Now, if you have any additional questions, feel free to email me. But that's what I wanted to get across to you. Now, lastly, today, lab, rest of the period. Tomorrow, lab, rest of the period. That means that normally on Friday, we have a lab period. We're not this week, and we're not because we're having labs Tuesday and Wednesday. So on Thursday of this week, I will be going over chapter 8. Chapter 8 is on responsive web design. After we go over chapter 8, I will do the chapter 8 Halloween exercise. After we get done with that, if there's any time left, we're going to write a brand new website from scratch. And we're going to write it with the idea that it's going to be responsive. And if you don't know what that means, that's what Thursday's about. We won't finish that on Thursday, but we should finish it on Friday. All right. Then next week, not this week, next week. All right. So the week of the 18th, we will go over chapters 9 and 10. 8, 9, and 10 are probably the meatiest chapters in the book. They've got the most stuff in them. Probably what I'm going to do then is I'm going to give you a test, but I'm going to give you a few days to work on it. You heard me right. A few days to work on it. All right. And I'm not sure what it'll be yet because it hasn't been written yet. All right. So that's what we'll be doing this week and next week. There won't be any more tests this week. And whatever you have next week, I will give out to you after we get through chapter 10. And you will have upwards of 3 or 4 days to work on it. All right. After we get done with that, which is going to put us basically almost into October, we're going to fairly quickly go over the rest of the book. And you're only going to have probably one more test. And it actually, honest to goodness, probably won't be that hard a test. All right, because I want to get into Bootstrap for a week or 2 and then get into JavaScript so we can actually start programming. All right, that's really about all I had to say. If I ticked anybody off, I'm sorry, was not my intention. I'm trying to be open and honest with all of you. All right. So if you've got anything, any personal type of situation or whatever it is, feel free to email me and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. I will be online all period for the rest of the period today. I will be online all period tomorrow. You might get an email from me tomorrow that just says, hey, it's a lab day. There won't be any taping. There won't be any more emails. All right. That's all I had. So again, if I said anything to either tick you off confuse you, make you mad, or whatever. If you need some one-on-one, feel free to email me and I will try to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. All right, with that, good luck. And like I said, please read these and do the best you can to adhere to them. All right. Okay, I will talk to you in person then next on Thursday. Have a good rest of the day. Thanks.